Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar today, Tools to Create Opportunities, and we're going to be looking at business planning. My name is Peter Towers. I'm the Managing Director of ESS BIZTOOLS. Welcome to this webinar today. If you have any questions during the webinar, can you please type your question into your computer, into chat, and I will answer the questions later in the webinar presentation. Every business should have a business plan. Business plans are like maps for tourists. If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to know when you get there? When you plan a trip in your car or an airline trip, you know where you're going. You know the time you've got to catch trains or planes, or where you're going to meet someone for lunch on your journey. Business planning is a bit the same. You should be putting signposts along the business plan journey so you know how to compare how you're actually going, to measure your performance, to see if things are on track. So it gives you the opportunity of assessing your progress against your plan. What's working, what's not working, what might need to be reconsidered. Plans aren't put in concrete and have to remain unchanged for generations. They can be changed if something's found that doesn't quite work. So now is a great time. We're about 17 days from the end of this year. Goodbye, 2021, you might be saying. But let's face up to the challenges of 2022. I interviewed a professor, business company director from the University of California in Los Angeles about 6 weeks ago. And he indicated that his belief is that there's going to be a fantastic period for businesses starting in 2022. A bit similar to what happened in 1920, a long time ago, none of us were around, when the Spanish flu ended. And it was what started the era that was called the Roaring Twenties. He thinks something similar is going to happen in the Western world in 2022. Are your clients going to be geared up for this? They need to start now with a plan. What's their strategy? What are they trying to achieve? You could start talking to your clients now. You can prepare business plans in January. They don't have to be done before the end of this year. Would be nice, but they don't have to be. And I think a business plan should be a master document from which everything else flows out. And by everything else, I'm referring to departmentalized budgets. Please don't prepare budgets putting a whole business together if it's got 6 operating activities. I think it makes it a useless document. Break it down into its departments so you can print off separate sections to give to whoever is in charge of that particular department, so he or she have got their budget. Cash flow forecasts, sure, they can be merged. Most businesses, they are. But if they're separate departments, let's have separate budgets for them and separate basis of the calculation. What's the labor team going to be for each department? What's the production going to be? What's the consumption of electricity and fuel and gas and any other products that they utilize? What's the promotion expenses going to be? What's the marketing and advertising budget going to be like? And have all these key strategies shown separately. And then a projected balance sheet. So we really need to be using 3-in-1 financial forecasts, such as Plan Guru, which enables you to produce these very workable budget forecasts. Predictive accounting is now the common term for this. And this is far more important than preparing annual accounts, I think. It's trying to show your client what the business plan is saying will be the financial answer when all that happens in the business. And if you're going to make changes, well, they've got to be changed within the business plan and then reflected in the predictive accounting reports that we've just been talking about. That should be think tank environment. Sorry for my typo. Leadership team involvement. Let them discuss it. Many businesses involve their total team in part of this process. Get their input. Your role is to be the facilitator, not the sole author of a business plan, because I think it's very important that the client has got ownership of the business plan. You're there to help them prepare it. You're the technician that understands how to put all this together, but it's got to be their ideas. It's got to be their input. Sure, you can raise your suggestions, your ideas in the conversation and have them adopted. That's utilizing your expertise. But don't go off and just prepare it somewhere away on its own. It's very important that the business plan reflects what the leadership team want to involve. So prepare a draft of the plan and submit it to the leadership team for review. Get their input. Again, it's a very important part of this process of getting their ownership, because they are the team that will have to implement this document, not you. And it's very important within a business plan that there's a detailed action plan, cross-reference to the business plan. In section 3, this was said, and this is who's got to do it and by when. And this gives an accountable timetable, because a business plan should not be getting prepared for the bank or a lender or a government agency. It should be getting prepared for the business to help them run their business. Therefore, the action plan, I think, is the most important component of the document. This is what the leadership team has agreed has to be done in the next 12 months, maybe 2 years, 3 years in some instances. And this is a great opportunity for you to act as a facilitator, as a leader in this process, by politely suggesting to the leadership team that there should be at least a quarterly business review meeting to see how the business is performing against the business plan. If you could get them to accept a monthly business review meeting, I think that would even be better. But whether the business plan needs to be reviewed in detail every month, I'll leave that to you to decide with your client, but I wouldn't see that as a priority. But a monthly business review meeting could well be a very important step, because you would have monthly financial accounts and key performance indicators, and you could get variations from budgets, and you would get the team concentrating on what I think is a very important part of business life, the monthly reporting cycle. That's why big companies do it. They stick to their monthly cycles and they have monthly board of directors meetings. They might have a few more, but the main reporting process is around the monthly reporting meetings. Why? Because every person in the business knows that there's a monthly board meeting and there's a whole series of reports got to go to them. It's part of accountability. And this planning process can all start with the business plan, because the business plan should be laying down, this is how this business is going to operate. So let's now look at an overview of the products. We're going to look at what's included within business planning within ESS BIZTOOLS. So just bear with me a moment and I will link to our website and bring the website up first of all. So on your screen now, you have an overview of the members homepage of ESS BIZTOOLS. And our main package is the advanced package. That includes everything that ESS produces, 32 product packages, included within it. And we have the optimum package, which is everything that's in the advanced package, except there is no link to the ESS BIZ grants, which is our grant finder. And there is no right to reproduce ESS BIZTOOLS material on the client's or on your website, which can be done for the advanced package. So they are able to reproduce the 580 papers that are included within ESS BIZTOOLS on their website in a secure area that's only able to be accessed by clients or other people who have been given a password by you for them to access it. And down here on the left-hand screen, we have a list of the product packages that are included within ESS BIZTOOLS. And we're going to come back to business planning in a moment, but you can see we've got a newsletter, we've got buying a business, cash flow management, client mentoring, client seminars, crowdsource funding, debtors, early stage innovation, company leadership, personal property securities register, selling a business, debtor systems manual, strategic business succession planning, business funding. These are now the group product packages, chief financial officer services, industry specific, which includes charge out rates for tradies, charge out rates for professionals, retail or wholesale business, the setting of some sort of strategy around the various products that they have, the product mix and the markups, some other packages, and then sections and papers. So I think we're going to start with sections and papers today to look at what's included for business planning. Within ESS, there are 67 sections, which you can see some of them on the screen there now. And we're going through to find section 9, which is business planning. So you now got we'll get rid of that. You've got a list on the screen of some of the papers that are contained within ESS BIZTOOLS that relate to the business planning process. So I thought today we'd have a look at business plans, the key points to be included. So first of all, you receive a executive summary, like a précis, which gives you an indication of what's included in this paper. And this is similar to how we treat each paper within ESS BIZTOOLS. And obviously in a presentation like this today, I'm just giving you an overview so you can get a feel for what's included in this package. So we can now bring up the paper or the slides. There's a set of PowerPoint slides, which helps in conducting staff training or even having conversations with a client. You could utilize the PowerPoint slides. But first of all, I'm going to bring up the paper. And to do that, I need to so you should now be able to see business planning, key points to be included on your screen. There's a set of contents. This is the same process for each paper. So you can see it's going to cover a wide range of issues that could be included in a business plan. Some of these would be included every time in a business plan. Perhaps some of them might not be included every time. These papers are written primarily targeted at the SME audience, but many of our accounting subscribers use these papers to do their initial staff training or familiarization of their team with what the firm's getting involved in. So this is giving an overview of what's in a business plan. And you'll notice the system is linked. So if you click on that, you'll go to Review of Business, which is in section 21. Now that's the business planning questionnaires that we've developed, which we're going to come to that in a moment. And then we look at business goals, and we've got a link then to business objectives, which again is in the business plan questionnaires. Products and services mix. Very important that you have a clear understanding if you're preparing a business plan for a client. What are the products or services that this business produces or is planning to produce? And you'll notice when we go in and have a look at the questionnaire, you can ask a lot of questions. In many cases, you need those questions answered. The market, competitors. Very important that there's a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis prepared on competitors. In fact, over the years, I've been retained by a number of firms to analyze their competitors. Now, you could ask, isn't that a job the client could do? I would answer, probably. But if you were the full-time chief financial officer working for your client, there's a fair chance that you would be asked to do that job. I was a CFO in a listed public company for some years in my career, about 11 years. And I did exercises like this quite regularly, every 6 months, submitted a report to the board and what we perceived. Now, I didn't do it all. I got input from our sales manager and our marketing manager and our byproduct sales manager. We were in the meat industry. We're a major Australian meat company. And we wanted to keep a close eye on what was going on with our competitors. I also got input from our chief livestock buyer and a couple of other people, so that we were painting a picture for our senior leadership team to sit down and look at. Now, at the end of the day, I was the one that signed off on that report, but there were other people who were involved in its preparation. So you could be called upon by clients to do that same exercise, because as I said, I've done it for a number of clients over the years. Marketing strategy. What's this client's? What about the SWOT analysis on this firm? Make sure they're honest. The marketing plan. The 4 P's, product, price, placement, promotion. What are they doing? Promotional and advertising strategy and so on. So that's the idea of that type of paper to guide you through that process. While we're here, we'll just have a look at the PowerPoint slides so that you can see them. So there's the PowerPoint slides that you now have on your screen. You could badge these down the bottom with your name, and you could utilize these for having a seminar or a webinar or a Zoom meeting with your client. Your client might be on the other side of the city or 200 miles away or kilometers away, and you could have a discussion with them about business plans. Don't overlook using PowerPoint slides to communicate with clients. But the most popular use of these PowerPoint slides for our new subscribers is in staff training, taking your team through, making them familiar with the material, but also the concept of what we're trying to do in providing business advisory services to clients. Would that help you? I hope it would. If you think it could be done differently, you're most welcome to let me know. So that's the way the slides work and guide you through the process. So I'm just going to end that show now, and we're going to move on from there. And I probably shouldn't have gone that far, so I'm just going to go back in here now And find the document that I was on, and we will continue on our journey. So that's those papers within section 009. And as I promised you, I'm now going to go to section 21. So you can see in here, this was followed by family businesses, banks and finances, taxation, corporate governance, exporting, legal. And then we come to the business planning questionnaire. And I went one step too far then. Okay, so the business planning questionnaire. And I thought you might be interested in. I think we talked about business objectives before. So let's bring them up. There's a short summary of what's included. It's the same process each time. You have what we've called the paper. This is questions that you might ask in the there's the paper with the questions in it. We'll just go through into there. What are the objectives for the business? What happened in the current year is always very interesting to have there so you can look at. Profitability, debt position, and what do you think is going to happen in the next couple of years? Because if you're going to be writing about it and developing a business plan, you need to know these positions and what the leadership team thinks is going to happen. Have you any objectives relating to selling the business, acquisition of other businesses, retirement, new premises, exporting, franchising, succession, development of new technology? These are there as prompts to get your client to say, oh, yeah, we're thinking about doing such and such. It should be in the business plan. But sometimes people forget. They got some patents they should be thinking about registering. What about some trademarks and other products? So all of these things can then be reflected in what you're going to be looking at in the business plan. And I just need to go back into where we were. I'm jumping around here a bit, I'm afraid. And we're just going to go back into there. So some of the other questionnaires I wanted to look at was products and services. And you can see there's a whole range of questionnaires there, and I probably should go a bit slower next time. You've got the executive summary, and then we can look at the paper. And I need to share again. What products or services are you currently producing? List the key features and benefits of these products. List limitations. What are the costs and sales values? What's the annual sales figures? Some of this information needs to be in the business plan. What's the gross profit percentages? This information should then be analysed with the leadership team to see whether any changes should be made in any of this. Because the business planning process is meant to be some real think tank environment by the team. They need to make changes. What's the substitutes for the products or services? Are you satisfied with the gross profit being earned? Is there any product which is receiving a disproportionate amount of time or costs? So there's a whole range of questions there as you try to dig into having a better understanding of what's going on. A business plan is not just sitting there and saying, oh, well, we're going to do what we did last year and maybe move it up 2%. That's not what the process is about. This is an opportunity to do some digging into the business. And it's not a job you're going to finish in a day, because it does take some time to do this analysis, and it takes some time to do some thinking. And the thinking might be with the CEO and either a few or all of the leadership team members, whereby you've gone back with some of the responses to all this, and you've then sat down and had a discussion and a think tank type session. That's why it's called a think tank. It's an opportunity for the leadership team to have a document facilitated by you to put it under the microscope and subject it to some stress testing to determine what changes should be made. And those changes are then going to be documented within the business plan. So we've still got a range of questions that I'm moving through here, as you can see. So that's the way that particular document works. And then we might just move into so you can see here, I said I'd show you what was being shown here. We started off with business objectives. We got resources, uncontrollable environmental factors. One of the things that the board of directors and the leadership team have just got no control over. What about computers and other technology? Products we just looked at, the industry and market research. What do they know about, or what do they think is going to happen in this industry? What's their experience? And I now want to go into customers and clients. So let's click on that. There's a brief summary there, what it's about. We'll click on it. And then we have the document. We can link to some other documents in customer service, customer database, customer knowledge and service. You might need to link to those and print them out or send them to the client on their computers so they can read them beforehand and get their minds around some of the theory relative to dealing with customers or clients. How many customers do you have? What's the value of their annual sales, average sale? Who are the customers? What's their profiles? Do you know what it is? What percentage of your business is represented by 20% of your customers? You know, have you got a situation where the 80-20 rule's working and 20% of their customers are supplying 80% of their business? They want to be careful they don't lose any customers then, don't they? Have you identified particular industry groups that are strong supporters of your business? Does this assist in identifying a potential customer? Who's your ideal customer? Social media people ask that question all the time, don't they? Who's your theoretical customer? Are you using sales agents to sell your products? If so, are you keeping them informed? Do they know what's going on? They got brochures. What's going on with the population in the areas that you're operating? Is it a growth area? All these questions are important in trying to get a feel for what's likely to happen, because you're doing a business plan that normally would be for 3, in some cases 5 years' time, but some people do them for longer periods than that, especially if they're looking at major cash injections or a major borrowing or going to the market to try to raise capital. So that's the type of information, looking at the demographics. And what are their occupations? What are their interests? What do you think their income level is? What ethnic group do they belong to if you're dealing with people within suburbs with high ethnic populations? What education standard? Trying to get this picture of who your ideal customer is. Do you have, or does your client have customer advisory committees? It's a great idea. Some of the most successful retailers in the world have built their business around a customer advisory committee. Some cases, virtually having a meeting every Saturday afternoon. In other cases, every few months. Just giving some feedback. What do they think of your competitors? What products do they go to your clients' competitors to buy? Why do they go? And what do you think your clients would rate you at on a scale of 1 to 10? This is the question you're asking the leadership team. What improvements are needed? And there can be great value in having the whole team participate in some of these sessions, especially this one, asking them where things can be improved. So that's the type of material that we have there. And as you can see, that's been continued in each segment to give you information. We'll just go back to the main document here and we'll just continue through. I'm not going to go through the rest of these because we'd be here for some time, but we were on customers, location, competitors, marketing, advertising, manufacturing, your quotes and proposals, costings, business pricing, packaging. What's the packaging look like? Has anyone checked what the packaging looks like when it arrives with the customer or the end user? Or is it all damaged? Are you using the right colors? I can remember when I was in the meat industry, it was very early days in the supply of Australian meat in big quantities to Japan. And I think most of the Australian companies learned a lesson that it was very important to have your colors right. What the Japanese looked at as the top quality color. You had to make sure you had those cartons in those colors and the color printing that was on there and your logos were all very important. This is before anyone opened the package to see what was inside. It was the presentation was very important. So ask those questions. Get your client to think about it. Perhaps get a marketing person to do a review. How many different types of cartons or packaging does your client have? Is the company's name always worded the same way? Because you'll find in some instances that there are big differences. Operating the business, exports, staff development, staff training, imports. These are all the questionnaires because these are all the key things. So what I normally do when I'm going to undertake a business planning process, I sit down the night before and scan through this set of questionnaires and make a note, print off the ones I want and make clear notes on the items that I really want to emphasize the next day. I don't turn up and give all this to the client, but it gets me ready to be able to ask the questions. Stock, work in progress, benchmarking, the budget and cash flow, taxation. Yeah, we got to look at taxation. Someone said to me once, geez, in business advisory services, I don't think you'd touch taxation. Well, I do, because it's important. It's going to take a fair bit of the cash flow to pay it. So we need to look at it. Periodic financial accounts, monitoring budgets, the bank relationship, business funding. Are they interested in looking at raising capital? So what's the budget saying? What are they saying up here in the cash flow forecast? They're saying we're going to need some money That's where we should then be asking the questions in business funding. Organizational managers, research and development. Are they doing anything? Are they geared up for it? Do they understand the process? ESS BIZTOOLS has got a complete package on research and development to assist you to take your clients through this process. Insurance, quality assurance, business structures. If they got a board of advice, what's its role? Has it been documented? Is there clear understanding? Because there can be enormous legal issues if these areas are not clearly defined. Advisors, legal, public relations, management, risk management, very important. Sensitivity analysis. What would happen if the turnover dropped 10%, but more importantly, I think gross profit varied by 6% down? What's the result? Then writing the SWOT analysis, succession planning, and business relocation if someone was thinking about it. There's a whole range of questionnaires there to assist you to undertake this task. So that's the process which we have for getting you ready to look at this very important process. Now, I'm just going back onto our main menu and getting some more information on business planning, because I'm now clicking on business planning, which includes everything that we've just looked at, but it's a little bit easier to find it or show it in a webinar demonstration than the way I just did. So within this product package, we've got a whole summary of information. This is to help you start this process. This is where you normally start. So we're going to download that content so we can look at it. And the first document I want to bring up, because it's the key system document. And there's one of these in every product package in ESS BIZTOOLS, and that's the procedure control form. So you name it, which client are you working on, who's the key contact person, who's the person in your organization responsible for this assignment. And first of all, we say, well, you've got to get yourself into gear. So I think you should read the business planning consultancy paper, which has been written for accountants. That's why it's got the number 570. That's beyond the papers we've written that we think you could share with clients. Go up to $3.99. Anything above that is in the area we're communicating with you. So 570042. You can have a look at that. We have how do you start a business planning assignment? So we've got a BAS's business advisory service, not the tax identification number. So there's a number of documents you can download. And one of the key jobs when you're undertaking a business plan can be that you are asked to look at incorporating other documents, such as a market research document has to be done as well. So I'm bringing up the briefing document for a market research validation. So this is the document that you would send to the consultant that's been appointed to do the market research, because most market research will be done by a marketing consultant. So if that's been done, I had these documents. For 11 years, my consulting company was contracted to Oz Industry to offer a service for the COMET program, Commercializing Emerging Technology. I had a secretary that probably spent 95% of her time on that program, and I probably spent around 50 to 60% being the contact person. And I found that we had people preparing business plans, and someone else, the client had got someone else to prepare the market research and someone else to do something else. And if you weren't careful, it was a bit of a mix-up as to who had responsibility, who knew the deadline. So I designed these documents. So we sent this to whoever's doing the market research validation document. So we got all their details, first of all, make sure we had them. So you can use this document if you're a subscriber. So you've got all their details, you know who they are. And we're asking them, this started off, we're even getting the quotation from them. So the client had said, yeah, I want you to look after everything. I want you to project manage this. But then you're going out to say, well, we need people to give us quotes. And whether the quotes are going to the client to pay direct or they're coming to you and you're going to pay them as a subcontractor, that's really up to you. But you need to, I think, nail down the deal, nail down the assignment. Otherwise, you could have big problems. This is like a builder using subcontractors. At the end of the day, there is a deadline date. You've told the client you can deliver the final reports in 6 weeks' time. You want to make sure that these other reports, which you're going to need access to finalize the business plan, and then the budgets and cash flows if you're preparing them. If not, it's another big problem. So you need to make sure that you've clearly identified to these other contractors, whoever they might be, what's required. So we're saying, I like telling them what's the primary research areas they're supposed to include. Because I've had situations, oh, I didn't know I had to do that. No one told me that. No one told me you were going to use this to try to raise capital. Has been a comment that I've heard more than once over the years from a marketing person, especially when we've used it to raise capital. Now, the era I'm talking about raising capital, all we had as an opportunity was Section 708 of the Corporations Act. Now we've got crowdsourced funding, equity raising, and we've got early stage innovation companies. So there's a lot more opportunities. I wondered sometimes what some of these people thought we were doing in this big exercise, but anyhow, that's another story. Do we want testimonials and endorsements? Do we want market validation? Do we want them to put to the test what they're going to tell us? What's the market's focus group? Very important for the performance of focus groups. You'll get a wake-up call every so often from one of them who will criticize a product or an approach that your client's proposing to make. So do we want them to undertake those activities? They were very important in that program that I was involved in called Comet. I've become a great fan of the benefit of focus groups. You put 4 or 5 people together, make sure they're mixed male and female too, because it's amazing what one or the other will tell you at times that in many cases, mere males are not thought of. Detailed list of competitors. Do you want the market research to cover competitors? Do you want them to prepare a market analysis? Do you want them to prepare a projection of unit sales, prices, etc. for the next 3 years? Because it's very important at the end of this that all this marries up, that whatever you're saying in the business plan is going to be reflected by the source. It's reflected also in the source documents. And one of the source documents for a business plan is the market review and the marketing plan, because that's where it all should start. Now, obviously, if your client gets this report back or you talk to the client and they say, no, that's not right. Well, let's get the marketing consultant in and have a real, very frank discussion and decide what those figures should be. But there's got to be some continuity. It's in the market report. It flows into the business plan. It's then the figures that are utilized in the budgets and cash flow forecasts. And in my early period with that Comet program, I found that consultants were going off doing their own thing. And I had to say, hey, hang on. This has all got to coordinate. We can't have a marketing report saying one thing, a business plan something completely different, and then someone else doing budgets and cash flows doing what he thinks or she thinks. It's all got to be a flow, because that's what the end result's got to be. A reader of these documents should be able to see the flow. It started with market research, which has identified what's going on in the market, and then we've followed through. And then we got some other things, and we told them the completion date. When do we want this final document by? And what have they got to cover in their quotation? So you got that sort of document, and I'd better just move on a bit. So that's that document. We could get an intellectual property report. We could get a management team, working prototype. Your client may have designed a working prototype. They may be wanting this business plan so they can raise capital as an early stage innovation company. It's vital that someone who is an expert has talked about the prototype, because part of the reason you're trying to raise this capital is to commercialize the prototype. So what's got to be done to it? Has there got to be more engineering work undertaken or design work? If you've never worked with a designer, you're in for a treat, I can tell you. I had some things changed 3 or 4 times from what the original prototype looked like. As an expert designer worked on making sure it was going to be suitable to be put into a shower recess, for argument's sake, that it wasn't just going to be a device that accumulated a lot of soap and other gunk and become a great mess that housewives would object to being in their bathroom. So there's Buckley's chance it was going to be able to be sold in a market. I had a client that had a design for something to go into a bathroom at final prototype stage, and it got knocked to pieces in a product review because of what I just said. Proven technology, legal advisors, and so on. So that's the type of information that you could get. So I'm just going to move back and bring up some of these documents. This procedure control form sets you through the whole process, but it's a little bit easier just to pick some of these up by going back to the main document, which is where I'm going now. And I want to pick up the briefing document. Oh, I've done that. I showed you that. Yeah. I want to show you the information required from the client, just to pick up another form. As you can see, there's a whole stack of forms there because we're looking for information from the client. So information you require so you can prepare a business plan. I prepare this in every case. In fact, as soon as we finish this webinar, I'm finalizing a rather large one. And it's not called a business plan, it's the business case for a major government grant. Over about $2 million we're applying for a client. And I've got to meet them on Thursday, and we're giving them a list of what we need. So we need, and across the page here, we're saying, is it available? Do you require it? Have you received it? Have you reviewed it? Have you returned it? Financial statements for the last 3 years, including interims, income tax returns, debtors' age analysis, creditors' age analysis, stock on hand, work in progress, bank recs. I'll just go through this. You can see we've got a whole stack of documents because we're going to have to do budgets and cash flow forecasts. We need to know what the commitments are. What's the organizational chart look like? Do they need to make changes? Employee classifications. Have they got employee contracts? Where are they? When were they last reviewed? The employee list. What's the employee's duties? Are they clearly identified, or is there no written list? Just hit and miss. Copy of the present business plan, if they've got one. If anyone can find it, can become a bit of a challenge. What surveys of customers have been undertaken? And so the list goes on. So there's a lot involved in the preparation of a business plan that we need to be looking at. To get this process to work. Hopefully that's given you an overview of what's involved so that you can have an appreciation of the entire system. And I'm just going to get out of the and go back to where we were now. Okay, so that's the overview of the business planning system. Tools to create opportunities. This is a promotion which we have on, which finishes at the 31st of December. Special promotion, 7 great products for someone that just wants to get started in the delivery of business advisory services. $795 is an upfront payment. That represents a 50% discount from the normal price. It includes GST, gives you 24/7 access. It's a great way to get started on introducing business advisory services. So you're going to get 7 products, but 4 of them are standard because they're very important for you to be able to get into the groove of being able to supply business advisory services to your clients. We got the training package, 13 modules. We got Business Plus newsletter. They get 13 editions during the year, although in 2022, we're taking it up to 14 because we're going to produce a January edition. We don't normally do January, but we are, because I think 2022 is going to be a vital year for businesses. So we need to get them into motion very quick. There's an extra edition to be produced in March because the federal budget's been brought down in March, I understand, and we write an overview of the federal budget as it affects SMEs, and we always write in May an end of financial year edition. You get the ESS papers to communicate with your clients. There's 343 papers. You've seen a few of them today in 60 categories, and you get the SME needs analysis. This is a great tool, probably the most important tool within our system to give you points to raise with your clients, to get the client to then identify what they would like you to produce. And then you pick 3 out of this list of 22 product packages. So within business health checks, we have 5 of those under different industries. If you want one of those, you can pick them. That's a mix of analyzing key performance indicators and benchmarking type items so that your client can really feel what's happening in their business. And then you can have the business planning overview that I've just been through. Tradies charge out rate calculated, professional firm charge out rate, retail and wholesale, buying a business. Client mentoring and coaching modules, client seminars, debtors management, early stage innovation company, capital raising. So you select 3 of these. You can select some more and we'll come to a deal with you as what it's going to cost you, but this will get you started. We'll get your toe in the water if you have been reluctant to get involved in business advisory services up to this point of time. Get ready for 2022. And these prices are all going back to their original price from 1 January. So the 50% discount gets wiped. Leadership modules, the Personal Property Securities Registry. If you don't know anything about it, you should know, because clients can go broke through ignorance of that legislation. Selling a business, systems manual, debtor systems manual, succession and survival in difficult times, which is a very important document to help you sit down and have a detailed, in-depth review of your client's affairs. So you can obtain more information on all this by sending an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au, and we'll send you the product brochure for this particular package, and that includes the subscription form. Just complete it, indicate how you're going to make your subscription, and you can make direct payment, of course, and within 24 hours, you will have access to the material. And that comes with a 1-hour mentoring session to get your team operational. The final webinar of this series, we've been running this series for the last 7 or 8 weeks, is on Friday, this coming Friday, buying a business. So if you want to register to come to that, please do so. Go to www.essbiztools.com.au/webinars. Our contact details, peter@essbiztools.com.au. Telephone me if you like, 1-800-232-088. And by all means, please visit our website, our new reconstructed website, www.essbiztools.com.au. And we would love to hear from you. Stay safe. Enjoy the approach of Christmas and have a very prosperous 2022. And I look forward to hearing from you. Remember, those special prices for this package, $795, gets you started on the delivery of business advisory services. You will not regret it. It will give great satisfaction to you, to your team, and to your clients. It should be the other way around, shouldn't it? Clients, your team, and your firm will all get a great boost out of getting involved in business advisory services. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you at some other time in the future. Goodbye.